All right, let's dive right in. For any CPA firm, you know the feeling, right? Recurring tax reform feels like this constant curveball. The rules change, complexity just skyrockets, and everyone is scrambling to keep up. Today, we're going to dig into how the most successful firms are tackling this challenge, and, well, it's probably not in the way you think.
Yeah, we've all been there. A new tax law drops, and what's the immediate reaction? We look for that technological silver bullet. The logic, it seems pretty sound. New rules must mean we need new software. It's become the industry's default response to pretty much any challenge that comes along.
And here's where we get to the real heart of it. What if just throwing another piece of software at the problem is nothing more than a temporary patch? What if the real issue is lying somewhere much deeper? Inside the firm's actual operations.
This quote just gets right to the point, doesn't it? Technology is an incredible enabler, absolutely, but it's not a miracle worker. If your team is already drowning, if your workflows are a mess, a shiny new tool isn't going to fix that fundamental strain. It just can't.
Okay, so this brings us to our first major point. The best way to think about tax reform is like a stress test. It doesn't create weaknesses out of thin air. Nope, it just exposes the ones that were already there, hiding right beneath the surface of your day-to-day work. The problem is, software developers are in the same boat you are. They're in a race against time. They're trying to figure out these new laws and code new forms, but there's always a delay. And in that gap, that lag time, the entire burden falls right on your team to figure out how to get the work done.
So, what does that burden actually look like? Well, when your underlying processes are weak, you start seeing these symptoms pop up almost immediately. Reviews get totally backed up. People start inventing their own manual workarounds, and all that crucial information, it ends up living only in the heads of a few key people. Does any of that sound a little too familiar?
So what happens when a firm falls into that one more tool trap? Honestly, it can make things so much worse. All of a sudden, your workflows are fragmented across different systems, your staff is completely exhausted from learning another piece of software, and you're probably entering the same data over and over again. It's a classic case of the solution causing more problems.
What's really happening here is that firms are trying to solve a deep operational problem with a surface-level tech-based fix. And the result? A tax season that's way more chaotic and stressful than it ever needed to be.
Okay, so if technology isn't the whole answer, then what is? Well, the real solution lies in shifting your focus. Stop looking for the perfect system and start building a resilient operating model, one that values flexible capacity above everything else.
So what do we even mean by a resilient operating model? Think of it like a system that's designed to bend but not break. The goal isn't to have some rigid, perfect process that only works in one ideal scenario. The goal is to have a flexible structure with backup capacity already built in so you can handle surprises, like tax reform, smoothly.
A really key way to build this resilience is through outsourcing. But look, there are two very different ways to approach it. On the left, you've got tax form outsourcing. That's more of a tactical move for some quick relief, to stop the bleeding. But on the right, you have tax function outsourcing. That's a big strategic play. That's about redesigning your whole workflow for the long haul to build true resilience.
And let's be super clear about what this means. This is not about replacing your expert team, not at all. It's about creating an extension of your firm. Offshore teams can handle the high-volume standardized work within your systems, and that frees up your brilliant internal experts to focus on what they do best, high-value advisory and review.
So why are we talking so much about operations? Why does this matter? Because frankly, it creates this massive ripple effect that touches the two most important parts of your firm, your people and your clients.
First up, your team. A resilient model is basically a shock absorber. When the workload spikes, the model flexes to handle it, which means your people don't have to bear the brunt of it. This is how you prevent that burnout and turnover that just plagues the entire industry every single tax season.
And guess what? Your clients feel it too. They might not know all the nitty-gritty details, but they just know that their returns get done faster, the communication is clearer, and the whole experience feels controlled and professional. Strong internal processes create an amazing external impression.
And here's another really tangible result. Fewer errors. It's simple, really. When your processes are standardized and workloads are manageable, the quality of the work just goes up. And that consistency? That's what builds long-term client trust more than almost anything else.
This operational strength, it becomes a massive competitive advantage. Think about it. While other firms are in a total panic during tax reform, the resilient firm stays calm, organized, and in control. That sends an incredibly powerful signal to the market.
Okay, this brings us to our final section. Because building a resilient firm, it's not just about putting a new process in place. It's about adopting a fundamentally different mindset about how work actually gets done. And this slide really lays out that mindset in 4 key pillars. A resilient firm sees outsourcing as permanent infrastructure, not just a seasonal band-aid. It designs its workflows expecting change to happen. It separates the day-to-day doing of the work from the high-level overseeing. And maybe most critically, it builds systems that don't depend on 1 or 2 heroes to come in and save the day.
You know, if there's one thing to take away from all of this, let it be this right here. True, sustainable efficiency, it doesn't come from your tools. It comes from the design of your operating model, the fundamental way work flows through your firm. The tools are just there to support the model, not the other way around.
So, as we wrap up, here's the question to really think about. We all know tax reform isn't going away. Complexity is just the new normal. So is your firm actually architected to absorb that complexity and thrive? Or is it just crossing its fingers and hoping that somehow the next tax season will be easier? Ultimately, that choice is yours.